Okay, folks, we're going to get going. Thank you. Welcome to our webinar. My name is Ivan Casanova, and our topic today is career site transformation planning. It should take about, 35 or maybe a little bit more minutes to get through all the content. We do have quite a bit. Please do put some questions together as we go through this. You can enter them through the GoToWebinar chat function. So please, at the end, we will definitely have some time to go through those. So during the presentation, at any time, you can go ahead and enter those in there. Again, I want to thank you for taking some time out of your day to talk today. We're really excited to give this presentation. We've got a lot of great content and a lot of great materials, and we're going to jump right in. So my name is, again, Ivan Casanova. I run marketing here at Jibe. I've been doing technology marketing for enterprise organizations for the better part of 25 years. I really am passionate about helping organizations figure out how to adopt new technologies. I think that's something that I've been working on my whole life, and the last few years working at Jibe, it's been our focus here on enabling organizations to adopt new technology. If you want to reach out and you want to continue the conversation that you're going to hear today, a really good place to do that is on Twitter. My handle is It's Me Ivan. I tweet a lot about HR technology issues and things I think that you'd be interested in. So please go ahead and follow me or and reach out to me there if you want to continue on with the conversation. So I want to start with the idea that as a vendor, as a company that helps organizations with their candidate experience, and Jibe is really a company that is focused on providing the best candidate experience for job seekers and empowering enterprises to provide that great candidate experience. We think that your brand, your business, your recruiting is enhanced greatly if you are to provide a consumer-level user experience every single time a job seeker interacts with you. That's our passion and our focus and where we really try to spend a lot of our energy as a company. And if you want to find out more about the specifics of how we do that, please do go to jibe.com and take a look at that. I will say that in our roles here at Jibe, we have a very interesting perspective on the industry and on the market, on recruiting and recruiting technologies. And I think that comes from the fact that we're able to see a cross-section of companies and industries and different companies, large and small, and see how they deal with some of the challenges that recruiting offers today. And I think that one of the universal truths across all of the different companies and industries and size of organizations that we work with is to really deliver a great career site, to deliver any kind of transformational change to an organization, it requires really careful planning. And the alignment of an organization that's committed to making a positive change that's really going to impact the business. And that's really what we're going to talk about today, right? We're going to talk about how all you folks can walk away from this presentation, this webinar, with at least a framework for how you can start to drive transformational change into your organizations. The projects that we work on, the clients that we work on, we do know that making these kinds of changes to a career site and really attempting to do something large and transformational is a lot of work, and it takes a lot of careful planning. But before we kind of get into the real specifics of transformational planning for a new career site and what that framework's going to look like, I just maybe thought I would empathize a little. I think that one of the things that's true is that recruiting is really, really hard, and I think it's really hard for a number of reasons. I love this statistic from the Bureau of Labor that says it's just harder to get people interested in your jobs. As long as the economy remains strong and hiring remains difficult, it's really difficult just to get people interested in what it is that you have to say. And I think a lot of that comes from the fact that candidates are in more control than they used to. And the folks over at Manpower did a survey, and they said that almost 2/3 of the people who responded to the survey said that employers like yourself feel that talent is driving the job market, that they have the upper hand in a lot of the conversations that are happening in a recruiting exchange. At the same time, in the same survey from Manpower, what we found was that almost 60% of the people who were surveyed say that retention is a challenge because almost 60% of employed people are still looking for a job at least once a month. So think about that, right? It's hard to get people attracted to what you're doing. It's hard to keep the people that you already have. Now marry that with the idea that these changes are happening in the way that candidates behave. It used to be that candidates would rely on the recruiters as the primary vehicle to understand the culture of the company, the opportunity, what it is about your business that's unique. Well, 3 out of 4 candidates today say that they're really making up their minds about you as a company, as a business, and as an opportunity, whether or not they want to apply to, well before they ever talk to a human being in your organization. And I think a lot of that comes from the fact that we live in an era where there's so much information available to people, and maybe that's why almost 3/4 of all job seekers start their job search out with a search on Google, right? I think anybody who's ever heard any of our video podcasts or any of our other webinars will know that I've often said that Google's the first page of your career site. You should treat it that way. We'll talk a little bit about that during this presentation. And I think all of those macroeconomic challenges, the specifics around candidate behavior, and the tools that are available to candidates really makes your career site an intense area of focus for organizations if you're going to be successful in recruiting and winning the war on talent. Winning the war for talent, excuse me. We tell our clients it's the most strategic recruiting asset out there. Right? And it should be number one from an investment perspective and a focus perspective and how we think about it centrally to our efforts in recruiting. The team over at Burson, right? They came out with a fact book every year, and it's chock full with a lot of data points, which I really love, right? Gives us an opportunity to really get a good handle on some of the numbers that are going on in our industry. I find it remarkable that company websites, career sites are, yes, they're the number one source of hire, 20% almost, right? 1 in 5 people are using their career site as the primary source of hire. What I find even more remarkable, right, is if you look at this chart and they do post these numbers, on a relatively large interval. So over a 4-year period, which is a pretty large gap in time, it's the only source of hire that's going up as a percentage. So that means that job fairs, campus recruiting, networking sites, referrals, job boards, etc., all those have dropped as a source of hire where career sites have gone up. And then think about the whole idea that all of the recruitment marketing efforts that a company does today, right? The job board and the job board advertising that you do, building a great career site, making sure people can find that career site, all the email and recruitment marketing that you're going to do for your team, all that funnels down into your career site anyway, right? So not only is it the number one source of hire, it's the place that every other effort and investment that you make in recruiting funnels into. And I think that even more important as we kind of lay out the claim, right, of how important a strategic asset your career site needs to be, and maybe you wouldn't be here if you maybe already didn't agree, right? I think we also have to realize that the bar is set relatively high from an experience perspective for job seekers. I spoke a little earlier about how the changing nature of candidate behavior, how candidates today are spending more time in self-service, on their own, researching opportunities, and in many cases, making a determination about whether or not they want to work for your company well before they've ever spoken to anybody who works in recruiting. And they have this proliferation of awesome consumer tools that are out there. Right? So if I want a car, and I happen to be coming to you today live from New York City, and if I need to go to a meeting somewhere else here in New York, or if I need to head home, I can simply and easily tap on my phone and have a car come and pick me up. You know, every piece of information is now at my fingertips with search. And as we get into the holiday season, I'm sure a lot of us now are exclusively doing all of our holiday shopping on Amazon. Right? We live in an amazing time with amazing services and amazing tools. But I believe that we would all agree that a lot of the recruiting technology and a lot of the HR technology that we are putting forth in front of candidates every single day falls significantly short of the bar that is set by these popular consumer user experiences and tools. So if you felt any of this, if this is kind of the genesis that got you to click on that button and register for this website and register for this webinar, then what we're really going to try to do now is provide a framework for us to think about how we want to plan to change our career site and how we want to create a model to think about how we're going to go ahead and execute this type of transformation. You know, one of the popular ideas that is talked about a great deal, on blogs and articles and conferences that I get to go to, is the idea that recruitment is marketing. Recruiting is marketing, right? And I think one of the most important things out there is that there is already a really well-defined and well-understood framework for how B2C, business-to-consumer, consumer-level marketers think about their online presence and the funnel of people to purchasing their products or services, right? They want to build awareness of who they are, right? Have a strong brand, stand for something. They want to breed some familiarity around that brand and who they stand for. And then they want you to provide you all the tools that a consumer would need to consider the purchase of their products or services. And one of the most important leaps forward from a technology perspective, as we've thought about this B2C digital marketing funnel, right, is how infused with analytics every single step of this model is. How marketers today look at incremental improvements to each of these areas and conversion ratios as a critical way to judge the success or failure of their marketing efforts. And even taking the full round-trip perspective to build loyalty to get upsell and cross-sell in an organization. I think that the B2C marketing, digital marketing funnel, given the importance of career sites as the #1 source of hire, given the proliferation of amazing tools that are out there, and given how your career site is the landing point for every other piece of investment that you make from a recruitment marketing perspective, we can start to think about our own career sites and our own transformation the exact same way that a B2C marketer would think about their organization. We want to build our brand. We want people to understand who we are and what we stand for. We need to have a strategy to get people to our website that is more than just pay-for-click advertising models, right? So what organic traffic model can we drive to our website that makes sense and is cost-effective and delivers a high quality of candidate who's really interested in working for my organization? in that third level, which was consideration, am I providing the right content, the right tools, the right ideas for job seekers when they get to my site to evaluate the opportunities, to find the opportunities that are right for them, to get matched with the opportunities that are right for them? And then do I provide enough content to allow them to think about and evaluate my organization? Remember, this funnel, the predominant model today is that this funnel gets executed by job seekers without any human interface, human interaction. Right? 3 and 4 job seekers are making up their mind and traversing this funnel on their own and making up their mind all on their own. And then once I've got people interested in a job, am I converting them? Have I made it easy to do business with me as a recruiting function? This is the framework that we're going to talk about, over the next 20 or 25 minutes, right? Hopefully give you guys some ideas and a framework to walk away with to plan your own transformation. And just like in the B2C digital marketing funnel world, this recruiting digital marketing funnel is infused with analytics as well, right? Every single step along the way needs to be measured, and incremental improvements need to be seen in the analytics that shows that we're improving the function as a whole. And we're not just saying, oh, we have more candidates, right? But we're looking at each of the incremental steps along the way. I'm going to talk a lot about how we measure some of the different pieces of this. Now, one of the topics that I think people talk a lot about is employee advocacy, and there's a lot of tools associated today with employee advocacy. It plays the same role in this funnel that loyalty programs do in the B2C model that we talked about earlier. Now, there's a little star there. I'm not going to talk a lot about employee advocacy after this because I don't actually think it's part of your career site, right? But I did want to mention that this is a closed-loop model, right? And you should think about it that way. I think there's just a separate set of tools out there to think about that. So, for our clients, when we talk to them, for the successful projects that we've driven as an organization, for the real kind of transformational change that we've given the people that we work with as companies, the kind of the profound impact that we have on them, we really do think about the 5 phases of a career site transformation planning. Okay? Your employer brand, driving organic traffic through SEO, providing great content and great ideas to allow people to self-service evaluate those opportunities with recruitment marketing, making it really simple for them to convert into job applicants by completing their job applications. And last but not least, right, how can we measure each and every step along the route, right, using analytics? So now we're going to dive into each of these 5 areas, okay, and try to give you guys that framework to walk away with. So we're going to start with employer branding, right? Now, I think employer branding is, it's interesting. A year ago, I don't really think that many people were talking about it as intensely as they are today, right? I believe that employer branding is something now that has reached a critical mass for a lot of the organizations that we talk to and a lot of the organizations that we deal with. Our clients are traditionally been the Global 2000 type of customers. So inherently, these organizations are brand-centric, right? The larger the company, the more important their brand is. But what we're seeing now is that these brand-centric companies are translating their business-facing brands, whether it be B2B or B2C models, who they are and what they stand for. They're now trying to figure out what that means to the people who work at their organizations and what that means to potential job seekers who are evaluating them as an employer. And that work, that idea about who you are and what your brand stands for to the people who work there or might work at your organization needs to be encapsulated in what's called the employer value proposition. It really is an effort for you to think about not just building a career site. I'm going to go ahead and build a career site, and I'm going to put some pictures and some videos up. Instead, right, it really is the first exercise to say, what do we stand for? What are the characteristics that make this a good place to work, and how am I going to shout that from the rooftops every single time I talk to somebody, right? Now, I think there's some universal components to an employer value proposition, right? What kind of growth path does it have? Does my organization have for entry-level employees? What kind of culture do we have? Right? What kind of people work here? Right? How do we collaborate? How do we share? How do we communicate? Yeah, I think pay and benefits is a key component of employer value proposition. Right? I think today, more and more, work-life balance is a critical component. But as you see, there's a question mark there. And as I was reviewing this presentation with some of the folks I work with here at Jibe, everybody said, why is there a question mark on this slide? Because yes, career opportunity, culture, pay and benefits, work-life balance are critical components of the employer value proposition, but you also have to find those unique pieces that are critical to you. Because I think your employer value proposition has to be unique to you as a business. And once you've figured out what your employer value proposition is, you then need to take on a creative hat and really think about, how do I integrate your brand and the employer value proposition for a design idea about what the career site's actually going to look like. User interface, user experience are hypercritical. They're the first perspective that people will have, right? And infusing your own brand and your employer value proposition into a single design idea for your career site is a critical first step to creating a framework for transformation. Now, a lot of people that we talk to struggle with this because they don't have the resources, and this is a resource challenge. But I don't think it would be fair for us to create a framework for how you should think about your career site planning model unless we really did make a checkpoint to say that you needed to have that design checkpoint organizationally and make sure that you actually have those resources attached. And once you have your employer value proposition and employee value proposition set, once you have it understood and checked and the people in the organization who matter from an exec, and that means a consistent set of messages that you're pushing out to your existing employees, and a consistent set of messages that you're infusing into the marketing organization so they can share that, right? And you need to train your existing recruiting resources to say, hey, this is the company that we are hiring for. Here's our employee value proposition. Make sure that you are talking to it when you have the opportunity, regardless of what the channel or the medium is that you happen to be doing your recruiting that day, right? So your EVP becomes the messaging, but your people, your internal folks, and all of the teams of your organization become the channel for you to share that information organizationally. All right? So that's employer brand. So hopefully, at the end of an employer brand phase of your planning process, right, you have some idea of who you are and why job seekers should find you relevant as a business, right? Now you need to go to the next step and really think about how are you going to have a strategy to drive people to your website. You know, we talked a little bit earlier about this generic B2C digital marketing funnel, awareness, familiarity, consideration, and purchase, right? And we have this kind of really well understood statistic now that's coming from the talent board, right, who we're big fans of here at Jibe, and if you're not working with the talent board and you're in recruiting, I think that's a mistake. You should probably try to reach out to those guys. I think they do some amazing work, and Jerry Crispin and Elaine Orler there at the talent board. But, you know, 3/4 of all job searchers start with Google, they're saying, right? So a critical component of having a framework for how you're going to think about planning your career site, it has to be driving organic traffic to your career site. Now, we talked earlier how analytics infuses every single step along the journey, and this is where Google Analytics as a core competency has to be established in your business. Now, You may be using Google Analytics yourself. You may be having a third-party vendor like Jibe or some other analytics vendor who interprets your Google Analytics and perhaps provides a more derivative view of that data. But you've got to establish a baseline for how many people are coming to your website today, where are they coming from, what type of devices are they coming from. You need to establish that baseline before you start your transformation planning so that you have a pretty clear understanding of before and after. I think one of the more interesting and frustrating things of the work that we do here at Jibe is how nobody has the before metrics, and then when they look at the after metrics, they've got nothing to compare it to. And really, the focus for developing a strategic plan to drive organic traffic to your website is the idea of building content-rich SEO landing pages for specific job categories or job locations. And really, there are three fundamental ideas around building landing pages for your organization. One is you need to establish a URL structure that is friendly to Google, that makes sense to people when they look at it, right? careers.company.com/job category, careers.company.com/location, right? It isn't some long URL string that has the ATS vendor name in it. It isn't some long URL string with a bunch of characters and numbers that make no sense. It's plainly readable, simple URL structure that makes sense to everybody. Now those pages, right? These pages, and there's no set number for an organization, right? It has to have a fixed URL structure and dynamic content. That's what the Google crawl engines will like. Now, nobody understands all the vagaries of the Google search algorithm. If any vendor out there or any consultant says that they understand how to get to the #1 in a Google search, they're not being completely honest with you, right? But I think it's fair to say that the best structure, the best model that you should have, and the model that you should strive for SEO-driven landing pages in your organization for particular job categories that's going to drive organic traffic and raise your profile in those 3/4 of the people's worlds who start their job search on Google, right, is consistent URL structure, dynamic content, and dynamic content both from a pure marketing content perspective, but #1 is make sure that you are extracting jobs out of the ATS and putting them into these landing pages. If I click on a link that says your company, careers.yourcompany.com/location, and the location is New York, I expect to find New York-based jobs on that page, right? I'm not relying on another search function. I've already said that I'm interested in working in New York. You now have the responsibility to serve me dynamically all of the relevant New York City jobs from there, okay? And there's lots of examples of Jibe customers who are doing this extremely well. So we've talked a little bit about employer brand, establishing who you are. We've talked a little bit about SEO and building a strategy to drive organic traffic to your website. No longer is it acceptable to just post ads on job boards as the only model, right, to drive people to your website. All right? You have to start to build an organic SEO landing page driven strategy to drive job seekers to your site. It's critical. Once we get people to our site, though, right, we're now moving into the familiarity and consideration phases of the funnel, right? Recruitment marketing. So recruitment marketing, I think, is a multidimensional function for organizations. I think it means a lot of things. I think it's an evolving discipline for sure. But I wanted to just provide some snapshots of data that I give you some ideas to think about how you should market to people when they come to your career site, and make this part of the planning process for the transformation that you have into a new and awesome career site. If everybody's a passive candidate, right, let's just wave our hands and magically say that we should treat every single person in the world like a passive job candidate, right?
Again, most people are making up their minds before they ever talk to you. 60% of the people who already have a job or are looking for or search for a job once a month anyway. So let's just kind of make the generic idea that everybody is already a passive job candidate. Then you need to put simple opt-in mechanisms into your career site. Now, we're not espousing any particular technology model. I'm not saying that one is better than the other, that you need to have a talent network, or you need to have job alerts, or you need to have both, or there's different. What I'm saying is, think about it from the perspective of the job seeker, right? Make it easy for them as a passive candidate to opt into a marketing relationship with you. Make it easy for that passive candidate to share their contact information with you so that you now can get that information back from them. And more than anything else, I think you need to find your own voice, right? Storytelling, bringing your employer brand to life, making people understand your employee value proposition. The way that you do that is by building a content marketing model that works for you, right? You need to create your own content on your career site. And that content needs to talk to your employee value proposition, why people want to work there, what you stand for, why it's a great place to work, why you're a great company, right? Now, I think you need to do this in the planning stages. You need to build the production costs. You need to pick what kind of channels that you want to use. Are you going to develop videos? Are you going to develop a blog? Are you going to have other types of content on your site? Make sure that the site itself and the technology and the vendors that you pick from make it easy for you to integrate all that content. But also build a calendar that makes sense for you as an organization, right? This month we're going to talk about what a great place it is to work. Next month we're going to talk about how work-life balance is important. The month after that we're going to talk about why we have a great executive team, right? The month after that we're going to talk about how well positioned we are in the market. And then you start to develop an idea about what content you need to develop over time so that that employee value proposition comes to life for job seekers when they hit your career site. Email plays a huge part. We live in this world where social media, maybe some of you even found out about this webinar via social media because we promoted it pretty heavily on Twitter and LinkedIn and things like that. But, email plays a really important part in the marketing of your employee value proposition and your employer brand and driving people to your career site, especially passive candidates who've opted in, because it's automated, right? It doesn't actually take a person saying, hey, I'm going to send this email out to people. I can automate that. There are really simple tools that are available now that are out there that allow you as an organization to say, every month, every week, every 2 weeks, I'm going to send out a brand-centric set of emails to the database that we're collecting about why we are a great place to work. If we get people to sign up that shares their skills and their profiles with me, I'm going to select all the technology people and talk to them once a month about why we are a great company for technology professionals to work in. And you can set that rhythm, that cadence, that model, and that content, and you can forget about it from an automation perspective. And that is a separate stream of information that always is enhancing and always driving confidence into the market about who you are, your employer value proposition, and your employer brand. So we've talked about the brand. We've talked about driving traffic to your website. We've talked about once we get people to our website, how we develop a content model that makes sense to convert them, right? But it's all about getting them into your job applications. And an area that we think is really under-focused in general is the whole idea of conversion. The Amazons, the other B2C consumer companies that we talk about spend a lot of time making sure that people convert and end up buying those products. right? And I think we should as well as an industry. I don't think we spend enough time talking about it, focused on how an organization is actually going to be converting those job seekers through that recruitment digital marketing funnel that we've talked about, over this presentation. One of my favorite topics is mobile, right? Here, the folks here at Jibe, we've hosted 250 million job seekers. We've processed 25 million job applications. Somewhere around 40% of the traffic comes from mobile devices, right? We all carry around the very powerful mobile devices in our pocket. And what I'm saying is you need to think about your conversion model from a mobile perspective first. What I mean by that is the very first time you as an organization present a non-mobile optimized user interface, the first time you as an organization make the job seekers pinch and zoom and scroll, through some non-mobile UI, what we have found with our clients is that the conversion rate for that session goes to zero. Nobody's going to do that. Job seekers today expect that there's a mobile optimized experience every single time that they touch you as a brand. If you don't, your conversion rates will go to zero. So really make mobile a critical planning focus for you as you make those decisions about how you're going to build that career site and how you're going to build a great candidate experience. One of my favorite generic charts that we pulled from all of our clients, right, and this is real data that I've anonymized, genericized to make the point, right? The length of your job applications has a direct correlation to conversion ratios, the percentage of people that start a job application that actually complete it. Now, I know that there are a number of reasons. I know that there is a number of reasons why you need to have all those compliance pieces or all of the assessments or all the other hurdles that we put people through on our job applications, right? But all I'm telling you is it's really simple. The longer it takes for people to complete the job application, the less people that actually complete it, right? And this is over millions and millions of job applications that we as a company have processed for our clients, okay? So really, again, if we think about length and we think about time and conversion and how those numbers are connected, we like to help our clients really think through where the drop-off points are. One of the interesting things that we do with our clients, right, is we provide them with some really detailed analytics about where people are dropping off of their apply flow. And what's interesting is giving our clients that really granular and obvious analytic-driven model about where people are leaving their job applications gives us an opportunity to improve the conversion ratios. And it gives us an opportunity to think through, as a business, which strategies are going to make the most sense to improve conversion. Well, so clearly UI, UX changes are critical. People expect a great user experience, and we've talked a lot about that. Talk a little bit about mobile and how we need to optimize for mobile first, mobile always. But also, if we have the kind of data that we provide to our clients, I think it's easier for us to start to make some determinations about, is this set of questions or capturing this piece of information in a job application at the point that it's in the process makes sense? Can I move it back? Can I eliminate it? Can I move it to offline? Right? All I'm saying is really take a hard look at every single question that you're asking, every single piece of information that you're trying to gather from the client, and are we making it too hard for people to actually apply for our jobs? So now we're going to move into some analytics, and I've made the point around analytics through the entire presentation, right? What I'm amazed at is we did our own survey of jobs of HR and recruiting professionals, a few thousand, and what we found was the majority of people still can't track application source, how long it takes to fill jobs, candidate conversion percentages, or cost per hire. So what we think are pretty basic metrics for organizations to be thinking about. So getting whatever your vendor technology that you decide to move with is. So obviously, we would love for you to come and reach out to Jibe and find out if there's something that we can help you with. But there's a pretty detailed set of criteria that you need to think about from an analytics perspective, right, which I think are the minimum requirements that you should request out of any solution that it is that you're going to be engaged with, right? How can I see everything on a single piece of glass? Can I get really detailed insight into my applications, where people are coming from, sourcing, and integration from a hiring perspective as well? I think everybody should get a personal view for, whether about just the jobs that I care about, right? It should work on every device, and I should be able to filter all those views by category, by data, by recruiter, by source, etc. Right? So kind of this is the minimum requirement for analytics, I think, for today's modern career site. And you should be able to get all that information pretty simply out of your vendor. So we are about 45 minutes in, and I want to wrap this up. I hope that you have found this informative. We put a lot of work and effort into creating this. If you have those questions, now would be a good time to go pop them into the question box. We've got some already that are in there, and we're going to spend a few minutes at the end here answering those questions. But the takeaway, the framework that you should think about is for your career site transformation planning is to think about recruiting like a consumer marketer and align that digital marketing funnel to your recruiting efforts. First, your employer brand. Why should job seekers want to work at your company? Really crystallize it and think through it, okay? Validate it, vet it with all the people in your organization, share it once you've agreed on it, make sure it comes to life on your career site. You need to drive organic traffic to that site, okay? SEO-driven landing pages, content marketing. It has to be where people organically come to your site who want to work for your company. Make it easy for job seekers to share information. Give them ways to opt into a marketing relationship with you that isn't just an application basis, right? So whether that be job alerts, recruitment marketing technologies, or talent networks. From a content marketing perspective, got to have an authentic voice. Tell your story. That's what job seekers really appreciate. Just like in any other marketing relationship that we live in, right? We value authenticity. We value you telling your story in an authentic way. And when you've got people, you've done all that work to get people into that organization, right? Focus on the analytics and understand how you can continually improve, right? One last takeaway that I wanted to give everybody is, I get this a lot. What are the key metrics that I should start measuring today, right? Start with these three. Baseline these three organizationally for your organization. How many people are coming to my website? Where are those people coming from? And how many of those people are converting? This is the base level information that marketers today are dealing with, and I think it's a good opportunity for you to try to get that information too. So I'm going to flip to my last screen. This is the only Jibe commercial that we'll have in this presentation, right? For more information, go to jibe.com. Employer brand assessments. We'll actually go ahead and assess how you guys are doing from an employer brand perspective. Career site assessment will literally tell you kind of where some of the pitfalls and challenges in your existing model already are. We do those for free. It's based on the collective experiences of really tons and tons of work that we've done with lots of different clients. So go reach out there. Let's continue the conversation, right? At Jibe on Twitter, we do a really great job on social media. LinkedIn, look us up there. If you want to reach out directly and you want to get a one-on-one session, it's ivan@jibe.com is my email address. It's me, Ivan, on Twitter. Both are good places to reach me. So one last thing, I know I get this question a lot, is yes, this session was recorded, and in the next day or so, you're going to get an email link with this recording. And, I hope you want to watch it again, and I hope you want to share it with the other people in your organization. So I'm going to go ahead and jump into some questions. Wow, there's a lot of questions on this. So I'm just going to go ahead and click on this. Cost per hire is a question that we get a lot. Well, what are you seeing in the average cost per hire numbers going up? Yeah, I mean, typically we rely on analyst data to try to gauge that for our clients. I think the guys at Burson do an unbelievable job. I suggest that you get a registration to the Burson Fact Book. They do a really detailed by vertical market cost breakdown of cost per hire, and they do some real analysis there. We use that data pretty extensively, and I think that's a good place for you to start with. So what are the examples of Jibe customers who are ranking for relevant queries? If you're the person who asked that question, reach out directly. We can definitely share that in a one-on-one briefing. We don't really share that kind of information when there's so many different people on the phone. That's more for our internal kind of one-on-one conversation. So definitely reach out. But yeah, we can definitely talk about SEO. We've got a lot of great things going on with SEO and search here at Jibe. It's a passion point for us. We really care greatly about having a great creating a great model for people to find your website, and once they get there, being able to find your jobs. I think that's a good one to reach out to on over the email address there, and we can share some of the specifics. Yeah, so how could an individual company beat job boards for SEO? That's a great point. The aggregators do an amazing job, but I think that the model exists for organizations to win, and I think that's not just a singular type of exercise. You should always be winning your company name and jobs or careers at in a search query. So if I type, I work for Acme Company, and somebody says, jobs at Acme Company, we should always win that one, and have multiple pages listed there. And that's really goes back to what we said in the SEO section of the presentation, which is start developing a strategy that has SEO-friendly landing pages. Those landing pages have a consistent URL structure that's friendly to the Google crawlers, has great content, and has jobs on it. And then market those pages and those URLs. If you do that, you'll be a lot better off. But again, that's something the SEO conversation is one that we could talk about a lot. I've done a bunch of video podcasts on this as well. If you want to drill into that subject, you can look us up on YouTube and take a look at some of the video podcasts that we've done. That's the Recruit Forward branded podcast series. And we've spoken a lot about SEO best practices on there. You might want to go ahead and check that out. But again, I'd love to talk about that. Reach out over email and we can have a longer conversation. So I'm just going to pull one more question here. Let's see here. Yeah, so the one we get all the time is, how can we get a great mobile recruiting experience when our ATS doesn't offer that? Yeah, I mean, I think that the ATSs have not done a great job in supporting mobile really well for job seekers. I think that the numbers are pretty startling. The Pew Research Group came out with some numbers earlier this year that said that 1/3 of all internet users are mobile only. They don't own a computer or they don't have access to a computer. So if you're not offering a great mobile experience, you're cutting yourself off from at least 1/3 of the job pool. Again, if most of those people are asking, if 3/4 of the job seekers are starting their job search on Google, a lot of that is happening on mobile as well. I think you need to push your ATS vendors or look for technologies that really focus on ATS integration. The team here at Jibe, we are really well known, and we've invested a ton of resources in ATS integration, extracting and unlocking the jobs from your ATS and delivering them on a career site for a really positive user experience that works really great on mobile devices is something that a lot of folks here at Jibe are passionate about and we can help with. And if you want to find out more about that, please do go ahead and reach out. So we are 52 minutes in. I think that's a long time. I'm amazed that the majority of people have still hung on for this long on this presentation. I want to thank you guys all. Let's continue the conversation. At Jibe on Twitter, follow us on LinkedIn, ivan@jibe.com, or it's me, Ivan, on Twitter. I look forward to hearing from you guys. If you didn't get your question answered, you can reach out and we'll try to get that answer to that question. Also, yes, in the next day or so, we will get a recording of this out so you can share it internally to your teams. We hope you walked away with a framework for understanding how you're going to make some changes in your organization. And that's really important for us. And I hope you enjoyed this and you'll be back for future webinars. So thank you very much.